What's going on, guys? Welcome into the show. Appreciate everybody joining us for the Sports Map Houston post-game show for the ALCS Game 1. Josh, welcome in. Appreciate you joining me this evening.
Hey, what's up, Brandon? How you doing, man?
I'm doing all right, man. This is becoming kind of a cool little trend here. I want to say maybe this is, I don't know, like, are we bringing some good juju to the series here with the Astros? I will say we haven't done one yet where they've lost a game, so that's pretty good, right? Knocking on wood.
Yeah, knocking on all the wood.
Knocking on all the wood. We're gonna wait till we do the big breakdown until everybody gets in. Everybody's kind of filtering in right now. Before we get into that though, I just kind of want to get your thoughts on the ALCS roster. We're going to get to the game breakdown in just a second here. I want to get your thoughts on the ALCS roster changes. We saw Seth Martinez added, Jake Myers dropped. So again, before we get into the results of the game, what were your initial thoughts on Seth Martinez making the roster, Jake Myers being left off the ALCS roster for Houston?
My immediate thoughts were, those two strikeouts that Jake Myers had. He looked really overmatched in the ALDS. And Dusty just watched an 18-inning game. So he's like, yeah, might want to add a little bit more pitching, especially a guy like Martinez that's really good against right-handed hitters.
Yeah, no, and I think it was a really good experiment. I think they did right by Jake, trying to invest some confidence in him early just to see if he had it. He did not. He did not look like he had it. And so I think that was the right move. Guys, appreciate it. We're filtering in. We have a little nice size audience now. So Josh, let's get to the game. We had Justin Verlander versus Tyan. So I guess before we get into the actual inning by inning, blow by blow breakdown on this, what are your overall thoughts on the game?
Ooh, it was an exciting game, man. Early, little concerning with Verlander. In my notes, he just wasn't really hitting his spots. And, and it took him a while to get that going. It was nice to see him just turn back into dominant Verlander. I think it was around the third inning in my notes where he really started getting things going. I'm going to pull up my notes right now, but I think the big thing, he did get a few close calls that went his way when he was struggling a little bit. That certainly helped. I think throwing inside, that was something that I was really harping on him in the previous series when he got knocked around. I think he went back to that in this start. Around the 30, right when he started dominating, he started running that fastball inside because he was clearly trying to get guys out on the outside part of the plate. That's why Stanton ripped that pitch to the opposite field. He was looking for that. So if you're going to pitch like that, you got to pitch inside too. So they can't just sit on that outside corner. JV figured that out. He was dominant, sitting around 95, miles an hour. But when he needed it against, guys like Donaldson to get out of a jam, you see him get it up to 98, 99 miles an hour a couple times. Incredible. And I'd also say this game, it shouldn't have been this close. That Aaron Judge catch off Bregman's hit, that saved 2 runs right there.
For sure. Their defense, that was my notes too. Their defense really picked them up. And when they needed to, they were able to make some big pitches. We'll get into it on the blow by blow. We're going to, guys, as you're coming in, make sure you're commenting. We're going to feature your comments on the screen as you're seeing right now. We try to feature as many of these as we can. We try to respond to them if it makes sense. If you're just saying like this, like Danny says, let's go Stros, we don't even need to respond to it because we're like, hell yeah, let's go Stros. So we're just going to put it on the screen and go forward. Chris Richardson says rent free. Yeah. And that's saying a lot because rent's expensive in New York, but apparently in the New York mines, Astros have a solid deal.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that I was just listening to the crowd as we were waiting to get on, and man, there's not that many left in the building, and they were still making so much noise that the post game show is having a little trouble hearing. So
was it me or were they chanting "We want Houston"? Were they mocking the New York fans? I thought that's what I heard. Guys in the chat, if you can, if you guys heard that too, let me know. But Did you hear that? I thought they were saying we want Houston, right?
That's what I know. I was like, are they saying we want Altuve? We want Houston? I was trying to.
Well,
Yeah, I was
because
trying to.
after the game, after the ALDS game 5, when they defeated the Guardians, Yankees fans were chanting, "We want Houston," and a lot of the more savvy Yankees fans were like, "Hey, you might want to calm that down." And I wonder if this wasn't the Yankee or the Astros fans kind of mocking that chant after the Yankees beat the Guardians. I wonder if that wasn't them kind of rubbing a little salt in the wound, because if that is, that's pretty freaking solid. I like.
That's awesome. I was trying to understand what they were saying, but that makes sense now. I just couldn't make out the words.
That's yeah. So Mr. Corona says we want Houston. Yeah, that's what I heard too. And Warren says we want Houston equals we want our asses kicked again. Well, let's hold on to that. It's going to be, this should be a good series. This was a close game. Josh, what do you say we get into the blow by blow breakdown of this? Let's start with the first couple innings here. You mentioned it. Verlander once again did not look sharp, was not really placing his pitches well. In spite of that, he was getting some very generous calls. I think the calls by home plate umpire Mike Milnicek was
old Millie.
Yeah, old Millie. I think it was very fair on both sides. I think it was very generous towards the pitchers, but I don't think that it was egregious, and I don't think it favored one side versus the other. Do you agree with that?
I do. I think the timing of when it went Verlander's way was great. It was, it was when he was struggling, when he needed a close pitch. I think a lot of great framing of pitches by Maldi tonight. And I think we'll hit on this later, but I don't know if you saw this. It looked like Donaldson had a problem with Maldi framing pitches.
Yes.
And they kind of started going back and forth a little bit. And it's funny. I looked in my notes, and Neris, when he came in, not to jump ahead too much, just saying, when he came in and got a big out, he kind of had a flamboyant celebration right there on the mound.
Yep.
And it looked like the hitter wasn't really pleased. Neris wasn't looking at him, but he was really pumped up. Yeah. And I think that kind of led to some of the static that continued in the game.
Well, I can tell you that Maldonado doesn't make friends out of the home plate umpires either, with the framing of the pitches and holding it there. And they mentioned it several times. And yeah, Donaldson took exception to it later in the game. My thoughts after the first inning was that both pitchers, had a lot of traffic early.
Yeah.
And I think, Tucker lining out to first there. Brady lined out the Judge. That was, Judge making that amazing catch that you referred to. That
swung the game.
Yeah, that was really, really big. That could have really broken things open early. Tucker had a really tough game. And so once again, he's at the plate, and I think he had two runners on, and just lines out to first for the third out. So both pitchers with a lot of traffic early.
And Altuve with the error too. Like Verlander, he worked around that error from Altuve. That was big.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That was my notes was just extra pitches early for Verlander to the hit by pitch, because he hits Rizzo on a 2-2 count, drills him, and then gets, he gets he gets Stanton to ground out to second. But like you said, Altuve rushes the throw. He had way more time had he just set himself and thrown, but he tried to do a running throw. It pulls Yuli off the plate, probably by a good half of a foot, and allows Stanton to reach on the error. But then he gets Donaldson swinging, gets the third out, and gets out of the inning. So he was able to limit the damage in a lot of these situations, which was really the name of the game for both pitchers tonight. Both sides really were able to limit the damage tonight. It was the balls that got out of the ballpark that ended up biting these teams in the backside. Let's move on to the second. We've got Carpenter strikes out swinging. Bader hits a monster home run, crushes a hanging slider from Verlander, puts the Yankees up early, 1-0. So basically, every game in this postseason, the Astros have been in a deficit in some form or fashion. So Bader just absolutely crushes a monster, a hanging slider, and just crushes it. But then JV, well, I will say this: the ground out to Kiner Falefa was a scorching single up the, or it was a scorching single up the middle. So there was a lot of hard contact in that inning. But he gets Trevino to fly out, and then Glaber pops up, and he's able to get out of the inning. So you're through two, or at least the top of the second there. You've seen 2 innings worth of Verlander. Were you concerned that we were seeing kind of a Mariners performance all over again?
I was a little bit worried. Yeah. He wasn't pitching inside. He was wild. He just couldn't, Verlander's about dotting that fastball and working in the breaking stuff. And, he wasn't really dotting at the knees, and he also wasn't throwing the high strike that he got later in the game. So I was concerned, but I'd also like to point out, you see the momentum pushing back and forth here. The Yankees get out of that jam with that incredible catch by Judge. Then what do? They go get that home run right there. They ride that momentum to get that home run off of Verlander. And then as we go to the bottom half of this inning, which we're about to get to, we see the Astros push back with some momentum, and they end up being able to tie the game in the bottom of the second. So you could see that kind of push-pull of momentum after that huge catch that kind of saved the Yankees. But then the Astros, after that home run, they bounced back, and Maldonado being the guy. Why don't we talk about that hit? That was pretty impressive.
Yeah, for sure. And that was so important because Verlander up to that point had thrown 40 plus pitches through the first 2 innings. And so, I wanted to bring up Manuel's comment here. Any concerns for Altuve? I'm not as concerned after this game because I think he worked some more competitive at-bats after this 100%. Game, Manny. I think that the results weren't there necessarily, but he was able to be much more competitive, and he wasn't swinging wildly. He had breaking pitches outside. But let's get into the bottom of the second here, because Yuli, who's been on a tear, he pops out on the first pitch, 1 out. Diaz pops out to center. That DH spot is really starting to become a concern here. We can talk about that a little bit more. But you mentioned it, the big play. Maldi absolutely tags a hanging breaking ball to the bullpen for a 2-out double. And
drives in McCormick.
Drives in McCormick, who had tagged a hanging breaking ball up the middle. McCormick, he had a solid game tonight, and it really shows it goes to show when the Astros can get production out of the back end of their lineup, they are that much more deadly, because now you're teeing up these incredible hitters like Altuve and Pena and Bregman. And so, but this time it's Chaz getting up in front of Maldi with that big 2-out oppo double.
He almost got it out. It was close.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Altuve comes up, works a great at bat. Like it's a 2-out walk. He had a great at bat. He's really seeing the ball a lot better in this game. And then Pena unfortunately grounds out to third. In that inning, I don't know how you feel. It felt like they had Taillon on the ropes there, right?
Yeah, it did. But the problem was that it started with 2 outs. McCormick got that single with 2 outs, and then you get the double from Maldonado. And even though Altuve gets the walk, he's out of it because the inning started with 2 outs. But yes, you did start to feel like, all right, they're starting to get something going here. And to your point, the bottom of the lineup that just gives you such a boost if you're a top of the lineup guy and you see Maldi and Chaz knocking this guy around. You're like, man, I can do it too. And they didn't get it going that inning, but it was a little bit of foreshadowing for what would happen later.
Yeah, it would. Let's see. So we've got, let me find my place in my notes here. So we've got top of the third, Judge grounds out to Altuve. Rizzo walked on 4 pitches. And so again, I'm going like, come on, JV. Yeah. Although I will say ball 4 on that was rather close. Stanton doubles. We got men on second and third. At this point, this is when Maldi and JV really didn't seem to be on the same page. There was a huddle after I think it was ball 1, and then Maldi called timeout. Runs. It's during JV's windup. He calls timeout, and then he gets Carpenter looking. I mean, just painting inside there. So he's able to make some big pitches, but it really did seem, and this is not the first time we've seen this, where Maldi and JV have some animated conversations.
Yeah, we've seen it in the dugout before. They made the comparison. It's like a golfer and his caddy, like which guy is, going to get listened to, at the end of the day, it's, JV, I would imagine, that has the final call on what he wants to throw, but he respects Maldonado in the way he calls a game. So, if he probably second guesses himself if it's not what Maldi wants there. I would like to say this was an inning, it was a tale of two different Justin Verlanders,
Yeah.
Like you said, the walk and then the double to Oppo. And I have in my notes here, JV still won't pitch inside. Wild, can't locate fastball. Yeah. And then he K's Donaldson, and then he K's Carpenter to end the inning. So it was just, it feels like, and it's funny in my notes here, it says got some calls, but feel like he's getting it going. We'll see.
Yeah.
So, so I was, you could see that flicker of JV after he got those 2 strikeouts, like, all right. And that would continue that way. That was a critical inning for the Astros.
It was, but how he got out of that, getting Carpenter's, looking on just an absolute paint job.
Yeah.
On the plate. That's when you kind of figured, or at least that's when I started thinking, like, they may have missed their opportunity with JV here.
Yeah.
Like,
it was borderline. And so JV was like, hey, maybe things are starting to go my way a little bit. And sometimes that's all you need if you're somebody like Justin Verlander.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the bottom of the third, Jordan flies out, Bregman flies out, Tucker lines out. Tyon looks like he's locked in again after struggling. So now you've got, first 2 innings, both pitchers had a lot of traffic on, threw more pitches than they wanted to. But then you get into the third, both JV and Tyon kind of, get locked in. And all of a sudden now you're like, okay, well, now this is going to come down to the bullpens, because they were able to get into, especially JV, run up the pitch count so early on him. You knew that the bullpen was going to be super critical going down the stretch. So
79 pitches through 4 innings for JV. So that just tells you 79 through 4. That's you're basically at 80 just through 4 innings.
And I want to talk about the 4th inning, because I don't want to bring it up here necessarily, but I have to, because we have a perfectly harmless Dusty Baker interview that where they're doing, and then that opens the floodgates to talk about more sign stealing talk, and we just rehash the entire sign stealing scandal from 2017, and we have to talk about everything that's been levied against him. This story is so damn old, and I'm so tired of hearing about it. And I understand that this is going to be a black cloud, but they took a Dusty Baker interview that had nothing to do with it, and then used that as the seed to start going down and like just talking, rehashing the entire thing. Like, I'm sorry, do we need to rehash the entire steroids scandal or steroids era? Like when we talk about the Yankees' past success, is anyone talking about that? Are we talking about A-Rod roiding up like for, whatever championships they got? Like, it is insane that the laziest low-hanging fruit on these broadcasts, because I will give TBS credit, we didn't hear anything about that in the first round and the ALDS. Didn't get it brought up once. But of course, facing the Yankees, they take in game 1. We didn't even get past the 4th inning before the broadcasters had to bring up sign stealing.
They did it as a measure to tell you how much animosity there is between these two teams. Like, that's what they were trying to show, is that, look, I hated it too, but that's the mechanism they were using, I guess, to the lay baseball fan. just trying to be like, oh, there's a lot at stake here. These guys really don't like each other, and here's why. It felt like one of those, like, anybody that's watching this, you would have to tell them that this happened. I mean, like,
it
know
was
your
literally
audience.
the biggest story in baseball.
Yeah.
It's like having to rehash Pete Rose bet on baseball.
Yeah.
Like, I think we get it, bro. I think we're all on the same page. Like you said, if you're watching Yankees Astros, pretty sure that's a given of a storyline there. And I don't think that there was, I don't, if they had just left it at this was, incentive for these guys to not like each other, sure, but that was thrown as an afterthought. They explained it was more of, here's why Dusty got brought in. It was because they had to blow out the manager and the front office because of the sign stealing thing, and that he was the new mascot of the team, and that he needed to bring a new culture in, yada yada yada. And then as a side thing, and so of course you understand the Yankees have some animosity towards them. Like, get all the way out of town, TBS. You guys just absolutely like pissed me off in that. We couldn't even get through 4 innings without the word sign stealing coming out of your mouth. So, again, like, it has nothing to do with the game, but that's also my complaint, is it had nothing to do with the game.
I will say this. I was shocked that they actually mentioned Alex Cora getting suspended also.
That's a great point.
You know what I mean? I was like, hey, at least they mentioned that.
Yeah. You know who they didn't mention, though?
The Yankees.
Carlos Beltran.
Carlos Beltran.
Beltran.
And the Yankees getting fined in 2015 for doing the same stuff.
Yeah. They didn't mention anything about that letter, but I'm sure that the TBS broadcasters would have got a slap on the wrist for bringing up a letter that MLB fought tooth and nail and spent a lot of money on litigation to try to fight that from being unsealed. I digress. Okay. Yep. So top of the 4th, Bader swinging, IKF swinging, Trevino strikes out swinging. Verlander just mows him down.
Yeah.
And it was a much needed dominant inning from him. And that's really when you could kind of see in perspective, you're like, oh boy, the Yankees have screwed up because they were not able to capitalize on Verlander at the beginning of the game like they really should have. And now you see him strike out the side. You go, well, this is going to be a long night for them.
100%.
But I, like you, was looking at the pitch count, and I was like, nice that you got locked in, but being late to the party like this is going to mean that it's going to count on the Astros are going to count on their bullpen a little bit more than they thought. That brings us to, unless you had any.
No, I was just going to say, not a lot of scoring in this area of the ball game. You go bottom 4, and you have a McCormick walk, but then Maldi breaks his bat and grounds out. So not much scoring. The top of the 5th, because here in my notes, I want to talk about this one with you. This was the inning that could kill the Astros.
But before we do that, though, I just, before we move on to the 5th, though, I do want to give Yuli his flowers here, because Yuli has another he hits a laser to the scoreboard in left. And, so that it took a great defensive play. Like you said, Diaz flies out. Chas works a walk, a part of his really good night at the plate. And like you said, Maldi with a broken back grounder to IKF for the 3rd out. I just felt like their defense was really picking them up at that point. That's what I really thought. I just thought was like, wow, like they're really fortunate to have been able to make some plays here. They showed great. So let's go to the top of the inning. JB started that inning with 79 pitches, as you mentioned.
He did. And it was 3 up, 3 down again.
Yep.
He was at 9 Ks at that point.
Yeah.
And he was at 91 pitches after the 5th. So at this point, he's just like striking out everybody.
Yeah. But JV and Maldi still looked like they were not on the same page, even though the results were much better. Yeah. Maldi and JV really still looked like they were talking through some things and had some philosophical differences. On the broadcast, they mentioned Maldy's one of the few people that can probably talk to Verlander in the way, with as strong of terms as he can. But does it make you wonder a little bit after you see, I guess, kind of the back and forth between those guys? Do we wonder, like, you got Christian Vasquez sitting on the bench. Maybe he and JV can get on the same page a little quicker, and you get an extra bat. Now, granted, I say that in a game in which Maldy hits, a double, an RBI double here.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
And his pitch framing was big today. They got a lot of calls that were on the borders.
Yeah, no doubt. I think it was just a very pitcher-friendly strike zone that went both ways. I can say it went both ways. Both teams benefited from it.
Bregman got a couple called on him that he was not happy about with that little backup slider, really high.
Yeah.
He was. So it did go both ways.
No, for sure. And then we go to the bottom of the fifth. Altuve with that weak grounder to Rizzo. Pena scorches a rocket down the third baseline for a 1-out double. Dude, Pena, this dude is just, thank you.
I had to wear the right shirt.
For sure. Jeremy Pena, it cannot be overstated. This dude is showing up in the postseason in a way that is making the difference right now.
Dude, and he's hitting sliders. They are hanging him and he's looking for him and he's not going to piss out of him. Dude, that one almost went over the train tracks later in the game. But he roped the one in the first inning. That was a shame that they didn't get something out of that.
Yep.
And then he rips that one down the line that we're talking about here in the fifth, right?
Yep.
So that was huge. You get a double. You got 1 out because, like you said, Altuve grounded out.
Right.
This is where they make the pitching change, correct?
Yep. So they replace Tyon with Clark Schmidt. And they intentionally walk Jordan. Bregman draws a 3-2 walk to load the bases.
I think he took those called strikes, but then he laid off a low slider outside, and that was a great at bat.
Great at bat. Oh, dude, that guy's eye is sick. It's so
gotta
stupid.
Be the best, right?
He
must have the most amazing eyesight.
It's so stupid, how good he is and how good his vision is at the plate. So he walks the bases loaded, and this was a big play here because
crowd gets into it.
They induced the double play. Tucker grounds out into the double play and gets him out of the inning. That was huge, man. I really was concerned at that point that maybe they weren't going to, that might just come back and haunt them is what I was concerned about. I was like, man, you got 1 out and the bases loaded, and Tucker, who did not have good at-bats this game, that really could have been a difference maker. It turned out to be. What were your thoughts on Tucker tonight?
To me, I think in this inning with Tucker specifically, this is where the bad umpiring reared its head in the Yankees' favor, because Tucker gets a low breaking ball that's clearly out of the K zone on the inside, but it's low. It's not even touching the K zone, and it gets called a strike. So, Tucker's like, my God, I'm going to have to, chase pitches down there. So then when he does get, which was actually a low sinker, but it was on the outside corner, I think he felt like he had to go for it because the strike zone was so low on him. And then what happens? You try and pull a low sinker, you hit into a double play.
Yeah.
And so I feel like, Tucker did it, but I feel for him there because I believe that he thought the strike zone was that low and that he was going to have to chase some pitches down.
I agree. I think the calls were definitely a factor in how he was approaching his at bats because, as one of our commenters said, it was a wonky strike zone there.
Yep. And that killed the momentum, I think, in the stadium. It was really getting pumped. And even me on my couch, I'm on the edge, and then after that, I'm just sitting back in the couch. That was so deflating.
It really was. There's something about Minute Maid. If you've ever been there during playoff baseball, there becomes this real nervous energy when the game's tight.
Yeah.
And that really just kind of permeates. And I think it can, be I don't know, like osmosisly, I'm making up a word. It can be, absorbed like through osmosis. That was my favorite Ozzy album. I'm just kidding. That was awful. But you can kind of feel it in the stadium. You can kind of feel that momentum, and they were real tight. And like you said, that grounding into that double play was huge. And you really were concerned of, oh man, like you had an opportunity with one out, bases loaded, and you don't capitalize. Ooh, that felt like that could have been a real big game changer for them. They were very fortunate that didn't come back to haunt them. And it turned out to be not that big a deal because JV comes back and just mows them down again. Like it's just, it's Stanton grounded or Pena, Donaldson strikeout looking, Carpenter strikeout swinging. And again, JV and Maldi in this inning have another discussion at the plate, or excuse me, a discussion at the mound. But the results were there. It was clearly they had some philosophical exchanges there about how they wanted to approach these ABs, but the results are there. And, at this point, JV's got 11 Ks and had retired 11 in a row. So,
but he's over 100 pitches.
Yeah. But he was locked in at that point, like you said. But the flip side of that is, he had you had used so much, you had exerted so much energy in the first 2 innings that really you were playing catch up after that. And so as good as he was, as dominant as he was, he had to be to make it to that point.
100%. That was huge. And we talked about momentum being a big thing in this game. They lost all that momentum there with the double play. But then Verlander comes out and you see the crowd start getting into it because he's just, incredible. He is dominant. He's striking everybody out, 11 Ks. You saw the guy lining up all the Ks in the outfield all game. That would become a trend, a lot of strikeouts for the Yankees. So they ride that momentum from JV, sitting him down there. JV's excited. I think he knew, like, this is my last inning. It's over 100 pitches. Like, this is it. Because the announcers are like, oh, he's going to maybe go fight with Dusty about staying in. I don't think so. And I wanted to bring this up. His fastball was more around 93 miles an hour that inning, too.
Yeah.
I noticed that. So it looked like, his stuff was still playing, but the velocity wasn't as up as it was. So
he was locating the breaking stuff a lot more effectively. Give Chad his dues. You give Chad his dues. You can't even spell his name right. Chaz, not Chad. Just kidding, Edgar. I'm just playing with you. We said it, man. Like Chaz McCormick. Oh my.
Last series, this series, he didn't look like he was limping around out there. We were a little worried about an ankle for him.
Yeah, we really were. No, it's so true. And I really do like the fact that they actually took Myers off of the roster so that there's no pressure you need to use him. It's either him or Dubon, and you're not getting anything offensively out of Dubon. So this is going to be Chaz's series, and I really do look forward to seeing what he's able to string together, because right now he does look dialed in, and man, that dude is the king of the Oppo Taco home runs. That's the only way he goes. You'll never see him pull a pitch into the Crawford boxes, which is strange to say for a right-handed hitter, but we've talked about this before ad nauseum. This guy just, takes pitches away and just serves them into that bullpen, the home team bullpen on the opposite field. So he's been nails for them so far.
Yes. And that approach in the playoffs it works. You heard, with the Mariners, they were trying to hit everything to right field off of Fromber and not pull anything. And, that's an approach in the playoffs that's very effective, because when you pull the ball, you strike out, you hit into double plays. And that's just how Chaz hits all the time.
Right.
It's just, it plays really well in the playoffs because pitchers, they don't want to throw inside too much at Minute Maid because of the Crawford boxes. So if you're Chaz having that approach, smacking it to right center, it plays. And then that would come to fruition. Do you want to head to the bottom of the 6th?
Yeah, we head to the bottom of the 6th, and Yuli we've been talking about it, man. The playoffs are a different beast, and it doesn't matter what you did in the regular season. Ask the Dodgers. You know what I mean? Like ask the Mets what they did in the regular season means jack shit in the playoffs. It doesn't. It's completely you're completely anew. You hit the reset button for better for worse. Right now, it's worse for Altuve. Right now, for Yuli Gurriel, it is absolutely better. He is just, and the home run he hits there is classic Yuli. It's inside. You pull the hands in and take the, and just turn on it.
Might have been that backup slider again.
Yeah.
And it was on an 0-2 count, Brandon. That's what impressed me the most.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, this is a different looking Yuli in the playoffs so far. We've really seen a different looking Yuli Gurriel. And I don't know what it is about the Astros and being able to flip some sort of postseason switch. They're notorious for it. But right now, there's been no bigger switched right now than Yuli Gurriel at the plate. Offensively, he is just absolutely nails right now. He's getting great at bats. In between big plays, we've got Diaz grounds out to second, but then here comes Chas McCormick, the man of the hour that we're talking about, goes Apotaco, puts the Astros up 3-1, and man, that was that knocks out Schmidt at that point.
Yep,
you could really feel like, okay, it's later in the game. They didn't get a chance. The Yankees didn't get a chance to get to Verlander, and now it's going to be a battle of the bullpens. You really had to like your chances going forward. What did you think about? Obviously, Trevino comes in and is able to get 2 quick outs. Maldi bunts.
Bunt attempt,
a hard bunt. It was the right idea, but it was not executed well.
Yeah.
And then Altuve watches a breaking ball right down the middle of the plate. But he did have
a bat.
He did have a decent at bat. He just got caught guessing wrong.
We saw Aaron Judge get caught looking later in the game. It happens, you know. I was just happy to see he didn't chase something in the dirt. It was a breaking ball that just clipped the bottom of the zone, and he let up on a few of those that led up to that. So at least it was a competitive at bat. We'll take it. It's improvement.
3-1. How were you feeling at that point? It's bottom of the 6th. They hit 2 home runs in that inning. Stadium's buzzing. How are you feeling at the bottom of the 6th there?
I felt really good about it because it just felt like the momentum was going their way. And to your point, at the bottom of the lineup getting stuff done. And that just gives more juice to the top of the lineup guys. It deflates the other team. When Chaz is up there taking you Oppo, and they saw, Maldi almost take him Oppo earlier in the game. Yeah. So I think it was starting to go, and I knew it was going to be Neris coming in next. So I was just like, oh, man, I hope he's on tonight.
Yeah. Well, that is always the concern when you go to your bullpen is we've seen it time after time after time after time, which is when you go into your bullpen and you're going, here's this guy, here's this, any given time, it could be this guy's off night. And tonight, it was Neris had his stuff on. It was Montero. We'll talk about that a little later. But Hector Neris comes in the top of the 7th, replaces Verlander, has a very efficient inning, gets Bader to fly out, IKF grounder to Bregman, and gets Trevino looking on the strikeout. That was the one where, there was a little bit of celebration. Neris is a little fiery, though, and so he is going to give you a little celebration. Like you said, he wasn't looking. He didn't look at Trevino, but he did kind of a little squat and a kind of it slapped his glove and then went back to the dugout. But a really, really good, productive, and we've seen Neris look good in this postseason so far.
He's a veteran. I know this is his first run in the postseason with the Astros, but Dusty loves his veterans, right? And once again, it's not Stanek that they're going to here. It's Montero after, coming in again after Neris. I almost wonder, like, it's strange, right? Like, Stanek is not, we saw him a little bit in the previous series, but he's not being used as much. I wonder if it might be a deal where they're playing so many games back to back where Stanek is your your other closer. Maybe we've seen them go to Montero as the other closer earlier in the year.
Yeah.
But if he's going to be used so much in high leverage situations in the 7th and 8th innings, Montero's not going to be available for you in the ninth. So, and typically we don't see Presley pitch day after day after day. So I wonder if Dusty's thinking that, like, I might need Stanek to close out a game.
I'm going to be a little bit more skeptical and maybe alarmist in this situation. I'm concerned that there's something that they're hiding from, like there's something going on with Stanek, because Stanek was an absolute horse during the regular season. He was an absolute horse. And so for them to not feature him at all, and especially going to, like you said, going to Neris instead of Stanek, it's been the other way around all season long. It was the other way around. I'm having a real hard time thinking of why these guys would, why all of a sudden in the postseason Stanek is a ghost.
Is it a left-hander thing? That's what is it, because now they're saying like Neris is kind of their guy to use against left-handers, and he's been effective with that. I wonder if, if the splits aren't as good for Stanek against lefties. And we also saw, I don't know if you saw, Brian Abreu was warming up, which is the other guy they've been using a lot against lefties. So maybe there's something to it.
Yeah, we saw Abreu featured a lot more than we saw him in the regular season. It's just very strange that in the postseason they would change up the rotation of the bullpen like this to where you're seeing Abreu as much, and that you're seeing there. We would go weeks without, well, maybe not weeks, but we would go long stretches of time without seeing Neris come out of the bullpen. And it was Stanek every night, just boom, boom, boom. And you get into the postseason, all of a sudden Stanek isn't your guy that you're going to. You're going to Abreu for like multiple games in a row. You're going to Neris to get to Montero. Yeah, bro. To me, there's something fishy going on. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that he's, healthy and Dusty's just got a plan here. But I really do wonder about whether it's a health thing or a trust thing. Trevor talks about, he says, I'd be really hesitant with Stanek or Montero as closers. Well, when Presley was down, that's what they were using Montero for, was closing. And they were using Stanek as the setup guy to get them there. They trusted Stanek in a lot of high leverage situations this season, and he rewarded them. He had a really low ERA. I think the record low ERA, if I'm not mistaken.
The low ones he did. He had a fantastic year, a historic type year. It just makes you wonder. And let me be clear. I'm not saying use these guys over Presley. But Stanek did pitch in game 3. He pitched in that extra innings game. He had a scoreless inning, just like pretty much everybody in that game. Yes. And he looked good. He didn't look, he looked fine to me. To me, it's odd that they've played 4 games and he's only pitched 1 inning.
And it took an 18 inning game.
Yeah, really 5 games, right? Because it was 18 innings.
Yeah. You only saw him for an inning in a game in which they absolutely emptied their bullpen. They emptied their bullpen on that, and at the end of the game had given it to Garcia, and we're like, "It's yours, bro." Like,
they had Urquidy, but that was it.
They had Urquidy warming because it took 5 innings for them to be able to seal the deal on that. So I would be interested in one, like, I don't know. In this team, you're never going to know the truth. You're really not. You're not going to know the truth because the Astros are so close to the vest with all the information they give. Is someone's hand hurt? Is it both hands? Is it one hand? Which hand is it? Who knows? Again, I wish that we had more information on Stanek, or at least understood what was going on. It just is what it is. Trevor, I am. I'm wondering if Stanek's hurt in some form or fashion, or we've been, maybe not an injury per se, because I don't think they would throw him hurt. What I'm wondering about is whether he has this illness that's been going around, because we heard Lance McCullers was kind of a game time decision before his start because he was battling illness again.
Gary Pettis today.
Gary Pettis was also not at the game today. He's battling an illness. We know that Lance McCullers was battling an illness back into the season because he actually missed a start because of an illness. So yeah, that's and we heard about that there was some question marks in filling out the roster prior to the ALDS because there was illness going around and they were trying to, figure out who starters were going to be. And
Might be why they added Seth Martinez too. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
but, illness is going around. Maybe add an extra pitcher. That makes sense.
Yeah, no, it's true. I don't think Stanek's suffering any Phil Maton sympathy pains there, Warren. I'm not real sure about that.
His right hand's hurting from that locker.
Yeah, and I'm not. You know who the Astros' biggest threat are is whoever they're playing right now. That's who the biggest threat is because that's who could knock you out is whoever you're playing right now. But I appreciate the comment there, Jonathan. Mark says it takes a lot of maintenance for Stanek's hillbilly neck warmer. Hey, I mean that hillbilly neck warmer has been lights out for you all season out of the bullpen. So respect where it's due. Put some respect on his name. Okay, so Hector Neris. Yeah, so let's go to the bottom of the seventh because here's our boy JP3.
Oh, dude, gets a hanging slider. Almost hits it to the train tracks, and it was Frankie Montas that came in, right?
Montas had subbed in there. Trying to think of who he came in for, but yeah, Frankie Montas. And Frankie Montas is one of those guys in which Astros have kind of touched him up a little bit back when he was pitching for the A's. They've been able to make some contact with him, and yeah, Jeremy Pena, another one of those hanging breaking balls, and he punishes it.
Yeah, he did. And Montas started that inning. And I mean, Pena I saw him take some pitches and just kind of spit on some breaking balls and, take some inside fastballs. And then when he got that hanging slider, he knocked the hell out of it.
Yeah.
Like, these aren't cheapies with him. When he's making contact, he is barreling this stuff up.
No, everything he's touching right now is just red hot. Like he's scorching the baseball right now.
It's unbelievable to see what he's doing and hitting in the 2 spot. If he wasn't hitting there, with what Altuve's given you, which is not much, he looked a whole lot better tonight, but he's just not producing. Altuve's an automatic out pretty much every time he comes up. He's worked a walk or two, but that's it this postseason. So you're dependent on Pena, and this is a game too. We should Jordan didn't do anything in this game.
No, Jordan didn't do anything in this game or in game 3 of the ALDS. And hey, let's not pretend like this is something that's out of the ordinary. Sometimes Jordan's bat goes cold. Yeah. I mean, World Series, anyone? And 2021, Jordan did not show up to that series. What I like right now is the confidence that Jeremy Pena has at the plate right now. It's so important right now because you're not getting anything out of Altuve. And over the past couple of games, you're not getting anything out of Jordan. But you know what? Jordan bailed your ass out in the first 2 games of the ALDS. So yeah, it should be somebody else. It can't be him constantly.
No. And he's had a lot of walks today, to be fair. They pitched around him his first at bat. They intentionally walked him later in the game. So to be fair, he didn't have as many at bats as everybody else.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is we all had this question about, how was Pena going to respond to the postseason? And you don't advance in the ALDS without Jeremy Pena getting on base in front of Jordan constantly. Yeah. This dude understands the assignment, and for a rook to be performing at this level the way he is right now, this is what you need. Like you need these, when you saw in 2017, when the Astros made their World Series run, you had young guys like Alex Bregman who stepped in, and it's that whole young, brash, too young to know better, too young to be afraid kind of situation, kind of energy. And you're seeing that from Jeremy Pena. And, we had a comment that said Correa, who, I mean, if he's going to, you wanted him to replace the production, where everyone said was, okay, let's pump the brakes. You got to see how he is in the postseason. Okay. Again, it's still early. you're only one game in to the ALCS, but so far, dude looks pretty chill, calm, cool, and collect at the plate right now.
Doesn't feel like now it's going to be the bright lights that hold him back. It's just going to be if he plays well or not. Yeah, I don't think it's the moment, but we'll see. He hasn't been in Yankee Stadium in the playoffs yet, so that's a big thing for a lot of people. So we'll see how he responds on the road. We see a lot of our players play well at Minute Maid, and then they go elsewhere and they struggle. So hopefully Pena can keep that going. He hit well in Seattle, so hopefully he'll be good in New York as well.
Yeah. All right. So, that was the bottom of the 7th. He hits that, and then Jordan strikes out swinging.
Three up, 3 down after that.
Yeah, it's exactly. They go 1, 2, 3 after that. Top of the 8th, Montero replaces Neris, and now we get interesting. You're thinking Montero is locked in because he gets Gleyber Torres swinging for strike 1, or excuse me, for the first out. He gets Judge looking for the second out. So you're like, okay, this dude's locked in.
I'll tell you why I was concerned though, Brandon. I didn't feel good about that, even though he struck those first 2 guys out. And I'll tell you why. 3-2 count. And this would be a trend. Every single person Montero would face in this inning would go to a 3-2 count. That's a tough way to make a living.
Yep. Yeah. And here's the thing though. What I appreciated from the Rizzo AB here was he said, I'm going to throw my heat,
to a fault.
Yeah.
Later.
but you know what? I'd rather that than a damn walk. I'd rather you throw your thing, live and die by giving up a solo home run versus putting guys on base and ahead of, hitters like Donaldson. Like that's, I would, because you had Stanton next and you had Donaldson after him. I didn't even mind when he gave up the home run. I was like, you know what? It sucks, but I'd rather that than him throw some BS in the dirt and then a walk to get in front of Stanton.
I get it. Yeah, mix it up. Even the announcers were just like, all you're throwing is fastballs. Yeah. It's too easy to guess.
Yeah. And especially when you throw them in the same place over and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah. He threw 2 changeups, but he did not throw a breaking ball. Let's see. I don't think he threw his first breaking ball to Donaldson. We haven't even gotten to that yet. So I'm just saying it was all fastballs and 2 changeups for the first 3 batters. And let's talk about that third batter. What happened there, Brandon?
So Donaldson walks. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I jumped one. Stanton gets a base hit to center. So now you've just given up a home run. Yep. Stanton gets a base hit. He walks Donaldson. So now you've got 2 on. So they come, then now they got to go to Presley to try to get a 4-out save here.
And that's where they're talking mess too. That's where the pitch framing was upsetting Donaldson, I guess. Yeah, and you can see him in Maldonado and, Maldonado, talking to the bench. It was interesting.
Yeah, it was. And look, I understand what Donaldson's saying there because the pitch was way outside. A lot of these pitches that were way outside, Maldy's sitting there holding. But in Maldy's defense, they were getting some of those.
That's his job.
Yeah,
I get paid to do this.
Yeah, they were getting some of those. I think it's it's whatever. It's high stakes, high tension, and so there's going to be some. And obviously, these teams don't like one another anyway. So there's going to be some trash talking happening anyway. I'm blazing sky high for that. Yeah, Jonathan, cool, man. I'm
good for you, man.
I'm happy for you, man. So Dusty has been managing really well. You can't argue with the results. I'll say that. You can't argue with the results.
Guys, hit us with comments, please. We'll discuss them.
Yeah, for sure. So Presley comes in and just EK's Carpenter swinging, and that was huge. It was absolutely huge. And let's talk about Presley because this dude's in the bottom of the 8th. Castro comes in for Montas and just mows him down. It has a 1-2-3 bottom of the 8th. So then you get to the top of the 9th. You've got Bader, Kiner Falefa, and Trevino that are up due. And so now the real question is bringing Presley back out for the 9th. Is this going to bite you in the backside? Is this going to bite Dusty in the backside? Because it's always a crapshoot. You never know when you bring your high leverage guy in for a second inning, whether he's still going to have the same juice and the same location as he did when you brought him in the previous inning.
You know what I think helped him? It was just bang, bang, bang. That inning was over in 2 minutes for the Astros, in the top of the 9th. So when you go back to Presley, he was only sitting in the dugout for like 4 minutes before, hey, I'm back out there. I think that helped him, having it not be a long, drawn-out inning. He was still hot from pitching.
Any news on Will Smith? Why he's on the roster? I just don't think they trust him. Really, I really don't. And I think if you need any evidence of that, they brought in Seth Martinez back on the roster, and that shows you all they needed to know about what they think of Will Smith, and especially in the playoffs. We probably need to talk about that a little bit. Let's just wrap up our thoughts on Presley here, because I think it's worth talking about. He gets Bader swinging, Kiner Falefa swinging, and then Trevino grounds out. And yeah, Presley with a 4-out save, his stuff looked filthy.
But he was pounding the zone with strikes too,
Yes.
and with curveballs and sliders, and he was nails tonight.
Here's a good question. You get ahead of me, Benjamin. Here, we were gonna go over who the game MVP is. That's a great question. Let me think about that, because I don't. Josh, I'm gonna let you answer it first. Who do you think the game MVP is?
Well, I mean, the answer's on my chest. I'm gonna go with Jeremy Pena.
Yeah.
What was he? 3 for 4, 2 doubles and a home run, and he plays the toughest defensive position on the team, and he had another great game playing shortstop. We're not even talking about how good he's been on defense.
Yeah,
you don't even worry about it.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So I'm gonna go with Pena. Verlander went 6, and he left the game when it was tied. So I'm gonna lean to Pena, but I'm not hating you if you're gonna go with Verlander. He was huge. He kept the game tied all the way until you're going to the 7th inning.
Let's take some votes here. You guys vote in the chat.
Yeah,
Rob says JV. We've got a vote for Chaz. Taz is the MVP. Christian, we're going to come back to your comment in a second about the DH spot, but because I do want to discuss that as well. Another one for Chaz, JP3, Pena, Chaz, Pena, JV do the strikeout count. I mean, you can't argue with that. I mean, 11 Ks is pretty strong.
In 6 innings.
Yeah. Jeremy Pena, MVP. Edgar says Pena. I'm going to go against the grain here. I'm going to say Presley is the MVP. Okay. And the reason why is because for him to be able to come in and put out that fire that Montero started, I think that was so big. And for him to get the 4-out save in that situation, I think like if it weren't him, I'd go Chaz, just because I feel like Chaz had some amazing at-bats tonight. I don't think there's a really wrong answer if you want to say it's Jeremy Pena or Chaz. I think those are the two. I'm gonna say Ryan Presley here, just because, again, it was if he gives up a homer with 2 guys on, then you're behind. Then it's 5-4, and now you're relying on your offense to try to dig you out of a hole. Now I'm gonna go with Presley, just because I think that was so huge for them to be able to get bailed out of that inning, and then for Presley to go in and have a stress-free top of the ninth. I think
no Stressley today.
Yeah, no Stressleys. That's it. Rob says Presley not a bad call. It says Altuve. Altuve, the cheerleader MVP.
He's so happy for Pena. What a great teammate. Other guys might be like, oh, who's this young guy? Altuve's just like, we love it. Hey, Yuli. Yuli's been great too.
I saw a couple. I think I saw.
He got it going with that home run to take
for
the lead.
Sure. I think no, Mary. I don't think they're going to bench Altuve. I don't think that's going to happen.
Remember we had this about George Springer leaving the one spot back in 2017 because he was in a slump. You just got to ride these things out, I think, with great players that are Hall of Fame caliber players.
I guess you think that Presley is a closer. I mean, yeah, he literally is their closer. So
maybe it means like he's a closer, like like just a kind of slang term, like a closer,
like he buys a girl at a bar or buys a girl at a bar and then closes the deal. Like,
yes.
I guess, like, I don't know.
Big business ventures. He's the closer they bring in.
Mary says she was joking. Sorry about that. I guess I didn't.
Sorry, Mary. We couldn't see the sarcasm.
Yeah, you got to put the /s after it so that I know. Jamie says JB wants to get paid. Yeah, I agree with that. He's going to get paid. And there was going to be some big questions if JB couldn't come in and do what you need him to do. And he did struggle through the first couple of innings. But he ends up having a quality start. He gives up 1 run and strikes out 11. So, the struggles were there for sure, but the results were there too.
I think the confidence boost that because he hasn't been great in the postseason as of late, and obviously hadn't pitched in a while because of the injury. So I think it was big for him to have some recent success in the postseason. I think that's really going to help build his confidence. I think that's big for JV.
Yeah. Carson says Altuve strikeout was a nasty. Yeah, exactly. I don't know if he'll get hot this series, but I think he'll come up with some big hits. Too talented not to. Yeah, I think the encouraging thing that you take away from this game is that Altuve is definitely watching more. He's seeing the ball better.
Yes.
Again, the results weren't there, but you have to get into that expected batting average kind of thing. It's just like what you want to see is that a guy's seeing the ball well, the guy is making good contact. We're not seeing him necessarily make good contact, but we saw him see the ball a lot better. And so
he's not swinging at pitches over his head tonight. We'll take that. What about they did announce it's going to be Fromber tomorrow. It's pretty much what you figured, right?
Yeah, it's what I figured. I don't know. I think I like that. I mean, I like seeing Fromber come up and pitch at home because it means we're going to see McCullers go into New York. Pitch. And
24 straight curveballs.
I like that, man. I don't know, man. Like there's something about thinking about McCullers going in with his brash attitude and just he's going to be a dude who feeds off that energy. So I really, really like, I really like their chances there. Warren, I agree with you. If and when Altuve starts to rake, it's over. I won't say it's over, but if he can add to what Yuli Gurriel, Jeremy Pena, hopefully Yordan Alvarez's bat wakes up. But what Yuli's giving you, what Jeremy's giving you on a nightly basis is real. And even Chas McCormick having good at bats in these playoffs. So if those guys, if Altuve can join that squad and start, making contact with the ball in a meaningful way, putting that thing in play, that's going to be huge.
I had one more I wanted to bring up. Yeah. Presley. Do you think he's available tomorrow? They do have an off day the following day for the travel day. Do you think Presley's available tomorrow? And in the chat, let me know if you guys think we'll see Presley tomorrow, since they do have an off day on Friday. He had to pitch 4 outs tonight.
And they were 4. Well, I mean, especially that in the 8th, that's a high stress situation. I think that he is. I do, just because of the fact that they haven't played as much. I think that he is. I think he's probably on a short leash. Especially if you have, Seth Martinez there, like, you've just got a lot of options. You really do. You got a lot of options, a lot of guys who haven't pitched. So I think that it's possible that we see, I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say Presley's available for tomorrow.
What about Montero?
Yeah, I think Montero, there's a lot of reason to bring Montero out, just because you want to leave a better taste in his mouth. You want to build his confidence back up. So yeah, I think that's, I think Montero is going to be available as well, but I also wouldn't be surprised. The bullpen's deep, and you got a lot of guys who you want to work. You want to bring in for work. So I can't say one way or the other, and only Dusty knows. Dusty's got a plan, but yeah, we'll see. Do you think he's available?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's going to be very telling tomorrow if it plays out similarly and there's no Stanek again. So we'll see. Warren's got available, but probably not. Here we go. He said our next commenter, no, Presley isn't pitching.
Jonathan says, yeah, Presley is a beast. He'll show up.
Yeah.
And Mark, you bring up a good point. Montero threw 30 pitches. I do wonder if just the fact that, like you said, there's an off day. I do wonder if they wouldn't bring him back again, just because you want to kind of want to wash this out of his memory. And Dusty's that guy, you know what I mean? He's going to trust his guys. He's going to invest in their confidence. We talked about that in the last live stream. He's going to invest in their confidence for the long term. So we'll see. Warren says Dusty has a plan. Are we sure? No, I'm not sure, but I can't argue with the results, Warren. Like, I really can't. Cole ain't nothing without his beard. I'm not going to go that far, but I do like the way the pitching matchup sets up for both of these teams. I like this. I think it favors the Astros because of just the Guardians being able to push it to a game 5, and the fact there was the rain delay. I think those two
poverty
things,
franchise. Or?
Yeah, I think those two things combined. Yeah, I think those two things combined set the Astros up, to be an advantage. Leomar says they should throw Arquette at some point. I gonna disagree with that. I think unless it's some sort of blowout, I don't necessarily need to see Arquette pitch. He just hasn't pitched in a while. It's not that I love Arquette. I'm an Arquette stan for sure, but I think you have too many guys in front of him that are competent, really quality starters. To me, I'm much more concerned about Hunter Brown getting pitches right now than I am worried about seeing Arquette see pitches. And now that Seth Martinez is back on the roster, I'd honestly be more interested in seeing Seth Martinez get some opportunities versus seeing Jose Urquidy. Not that I don't like Urquidy. I do. But
Trevor caught on.
Yeah, Trevor knows what's up. If the Astros win it all, Dusty rides off with the sunset. I don't know. I'm not worried about that right now. They just need to win the next game, but the next game after that, and then the next game after that, and then 4 more in the World Series, and then we'll worry about what Dusty does and where he rides off to. But we're gonna wrap this up quickly because we've been on an hour. We still have a lot of people on and a lot of people chatting with us, but just gonna wear this.
Yeah, happy birthday, buddy.
Appreciate it for just
Astros for your birthday.
Yeah, I got an Astros win for my birthday, and so I appreciate it. Thank you, Houston Astros. It's exactly what I wanted.
How did they know?
It's because I'm simple to shop for. I just ask for the same thing every year, which is an Astros World Series. So we're part way there. So we'll see. But yeah, man, I'm looking forward to doing this. Obviously, I guess we should probably say too,
Astros wins.
Yes. Yeah. We're going to do this again after as long as the Astros are winning, we're going to do these, not because we're fair weather, just because the schedule is really challenging. We've got one off day this entire series. So we will only be doing these after Astros wins, which at this point has been all of them. But just know that if the Astros, for some reason, like, I don't know, lightning strikes the stadium and, whatever the case, but we're only going to do these after wins, but appreciate it. Oh, look, I'm the Scrubs guy. What? I didn't watch Scrubs, so I don't know who that is, but happy birthday, Scrubs guy. Happy birthday. So yeah, I appreciate that. Happy birthday. Yeah. Hey, look at all that. Zach Braff. Okay.
I guess that's the Scrubs guy.
Okay.
He's in all those commercials now too.
Yeah. So appreciate it, Warren. Appreciate it, Jamie. Appreciate the love there. Hey man, Zero Dude says he wants a gentleman's sweep. I'll take a real one if I'm being.
I'll take either. I'm good.
Yeah, exactly. I'll just take a series win. I'd like it not to go 7, just because I'm getting older, as you can tell. So this is So I'm 1 year older. I don't know how much how many more ticks my heart left does on it, and every one of these games takes a lot more off. So, anywho, so yeah, I'm hoping for a sweep. Yeah, exactly. Astros sweep. So, I think Edgar's comments, a good one to close it on. And Dusty, we trusty. Indeed, we do. Josh Jordan, appreciate you joining me on tonight to chat. Everyone in the comments who participated in the conversation, we appreciate you guys coming on. We've had such great response over these first 4 broadcasts, and we hope to do these all the way into the World Series. But as we always say, one game at a time. Josh, appreciate the time as always. Everybody in the chat, appreciate the time as always. Go hit like on this video. Hit like. If everybody in the chat right now hits like on the video, that would be huge. Like, if you're watching us right now, hit like on this damn video. You're watching it, just please hit like on the video. That would be gigantic for us. We know you've already subscribed, wink, but just hit like on the video. Guys and ladies, thank you so much. Have a great night, everyone. Go Astros.